As of today, February 19, these handwritten passports are no longer allowed for travel and to vote.
The passport office jam-packed as that deadline hits. And then, the police have a new weapon to protect our marine borders. Also tonight,
we decided to bring about 100 of our friends and family.
Find out why these tourists hit the Bahamian shore. The Bahamas Tonight, the National Report, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
If you're making travel plans and you still have a handwritten passport, then you won't be able to fly. That's because those old documents are no longer valid. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Charisma Robinson. Several years ago, passport office authorities started issuing the machine-readable documents, and after numerous deadlines and a final call last week, we're told that thousands more Bahamians still haven't met the cutoff date.
Our Janaea Noel Ferguson was at the passport office today where she met a mad rush.
Today, February 19th, the deadline for all handwritten passports to be turned into the passport office. The passport office has been inundated with persons applying since the deadline was announced 2 weeks ago. It was long lines and no sitting room at the passport office Friday for those who waited until the last minute and the fifth deadline to apply for the vital document. First Assistant Secretary at the passport office, Garth Strawn, says it's a stark difference from before the deadline was officially announced in Parliament.
Notice since the announcement that our numbers have increased threefold. Before we used to have on average 80 applicants coming for their passports. Now we're noticing between 280 and 300.
And that's on a daily basis. Strawn and the executive team at the passport office were prepared and expected the demand. Collection of those 1,100 processed e-passports have also increased. And although the deadline is February 19th, Strawn is encouraging persons to continue to come in.
6 to 8 weeks. There are some cases, as you would be aware, people can get their passports within 48 hours. That's a rush. We could accommodate clients on that basis, and they'll pay $200 plus the $50, $200 plus the $50 for the passport.
Additionally, other institutions are now requiring e-passports.
Banks, and also some insurance companies, and also even the public service in terms of applying for a public service job, they are no longer accepting manual passports. So it's very important that everybody gets their e-passport as soon as possible.
Passport officials have also established a schedule to accommodate family islanders. Officials will be in Exuma next week, Monday to Wednesday, to process applicants, and other islands is scheduled for each month for the rest of the year. Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
The U.S. Embassy will also no longer recognize handwritten passports as a legitimate travel document for visas or other services. Embassy officials are advising those with visas in handwritten passports to use them for the duration of their validity, but the passport holder will also be required to present valid Bahamian e-passports for travel. U.S. Embassy officials also encourage Bahamians and Turks and Caicos Islands residents to apply now for a visa before the busy summer months. The U.S. Embassy reminds the wait time for an interview can be more than 2 weeks, and the majority of successful applicants can expect to receive their visas within a week's time.
The draft legislation for national health insurance has been released. It can be downloaded at www.nhibahamas.gov.bs. It's intended to give stakeholders an opportunity to provide feedback, and anyone wishing to weigh in on the bill has until March 2nd, 2016 to provide their comments or concerns to the Secretariat. NHI legal consultant Damara Dillett explains some of the features of the draft legislation, while project manager Dr. Dylan Brennan noted that the islands they're heading to.
The draft bill includes necessary provisions to legally establish the NHI plan, create the National Health Insurance Authority, establish the NHI fund. Additionally, the bill, amongst other things, speaks to the functions and powers that the NHI is intended to have, persons who will be eligible to participate in the plan, what will be required for the healthcare providers and regulated health administrators to take part in this particular system.
Community meetings will be held weekly throughout February, March, and April in the following islands: New Providence, Grand Bahama, Abaco, Exuma, Eleuthera, Andros, San Salvador, Spanish Wells, Harbor Island, Cat Island, Long Island, the Berry Islands, Bimini, Acklands, Inagua, Mayaguana, Crooked Island, and Rum Key.
Just a few weeks ago, passengers on board a local airline experienced a scare as the plane apparently experienced engine problems. Fortunately, though, the captain was able to land safely.
It's not the first time that passengers has had scares in the air, which have made the rounds on social media. As a result of this, our LaDon Davis sat down with an aviation official to find out more about aircraft maintenance.
From time to time, airlines may experience technical challenges. Some of them may even have to abort a flight. Quite often, these encounters could be the result of a malfunctioned engine and become a harrowing experience for passengers. On the local scene, Aviation Safety Inspector Dion Demerit says airlines are mandated to carry out a thorough maintenance check annually.
The maintenance of the aircraft is dictated by the type of aircraft. Some aircrafts that are under 12,500 pounds are maintained on a continuous maintenance program where they use a phased approach to doing the work, where at a prescribed time period they do a certain portion of the work, but eventually, by time as the entire year has been completed, they would have completed an entire cycle of work. And then you have others who are using a 100-hour annual inspection program, and with the 100-hour annual inspection program, every 100 hours they fly, they bring the plane back in to do maintenance.
In the Bahamas, the Aviation Flight Inspectorate does not see a trend with such airline experiences, but they are keeping a very close eye on the issue.
What the flight standard has done is the principal maintenance inspectors who are responsible for those companies have received the reports back from those companies to indicate what they found wrong with those engines and the corrective actions that have been taken. If there was a pattern, we would take a look at that as it relates to historically what has happened with other similar defects and see whether or not there's some commonality, whether it's the vendor that they're going to or whether it's an activity that they're not doing or an activity that they are doing that may be contributing towards it.
Additionally, Demerit says frequent flyers should not panic over mechanical problems because it can happen. However, he says those at the wheel must be able to make the best decisions, which he says comes with experience.
We anticipate from time to time there will be an engine failure. Within the checklists and the training programs for the pilots, they've actually been taught to deal with these type of occurrences. They have a very prescribed checklist for each specific type or make that they may be approved for and they're operating. And those checklists will dictate their course of action that will be taken from the time they identify which engine has failed, them properly secure the engine, and then finally them making the necessary notifications to air traffic services, to their companies, and getting the aircraft safely on the ground.
Authorities are strongly encouraging passengers to report any airline failures to the Department of Civil Aviation, and these tips or information can be provided anonymously. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.